Episode 9 takes place right after Episode 7 with Mitch standing outside of Hannah's apartment. And he wants Hannah to corroborate his story. But his story is a little different than her story. Because the way he sees it, she used him, had sex with him to get a better job on the show. So he says, look, let me know one way or another, but your story's going to get told and I'd like you to be a part of it. Now, at the same time that Mitch is meeting with Hannah, Bradley and Alex are having dinner to figure out how they're going to play this whole divorce thing. And during the conversation, Bradley ends up springing this Mitch interview on Alex, and Alex loses her shit. She tells Bradley she's getting played, she wants to know why Bradley didn't bring it to her in the first place. And this civil conversation ends up turning into a real fight that ends up getting pretty nasty with Bradley just leaving the house. And as soon as Bradley leaves, Alex gets on the phone and demands to have a lunch with Fred. And the next day at that lunch, Alex tells Fred that this whole Bradley thing was a mistake. She tells him that she wasn't thinking clearly when she made this move, but now Bradley's trying to take down the show and that just can't happen. She also tells Fred about the Mitch interview and says that Mitch has information on Fred, and then I think the play here is just to simply get rid of Bradley as soon as possible. Now, Fred is completely okay with getting rid of Bradley, but he also wants to get rid of Chip. Fred wants to get his guy in there, this guy named Marlon Tate, who he knows. And even though Chip has been Alex's producer for years, and she does feel loyalty to him, she wants Bradley gone so badly that she agrees to meet with Marlon, right after he meets with Corey Ellison, in a you scratch my back, I scratch yours situation with Fred. And Alex knows exactly who she wants to replace Bradley with. It's Daniel Henderson. So the plan that she's concocted is that she's going to send Bradley out into the field and have Daniel Henderson fill in for Bradley. And after a while, America will get so used to seeing both of their faces that the announcement will come out that Bradley's true passion is being a field reporter. And while she's telling Daniel this, she does say, hey, keep it hush-hush, because I don't want this plan getting out. And this could be the big break that Daniel Henderson's waiting for. So as soon as he gets done with talking to Alex, he heads outside and calls Audra and says, we got to call this whole thing off. I might be a fool right now, but I got to go with the devil that I know. So Daniel Henderson was planning on leaving the morning show. Now, obviously, all of this is going on without Bradley's knowledge, and she's headed to Corey Ellison to pitch him the Mitch interview. And of course, Corey Ellison loves it. So at this point, you've got Bradley and Corey versus Fred and Alex. Now, Corey and Bradley bring the Mitch interview idea to Chip, who just found out, by the way, from a staffer that his replacement is being vetted by UBA. So he's a little shell-shocked at the moment. So while he's getting pitched this Mitch idea, and everybody knows it would be huge ratings, he's worried that they're using this show as a nuclear bomb. He says maybe he can get Alex to come over to his side, and Corey cuts him off and says, I'm just going to let you know, I'm not the only one meeting with Marlon Tate. Alex is also meeting with him. And when Chip hears this, it puts the fear of God into him because Chip and Alex have been a team forever. And while the stab in the back from Alex hurts, he still isn't sure if he wants to do the Mitch interview. Now, speaking of Mitch, he's trying to figure out exactly how to play his divorce in his New York apartment when he gets a knock at the door and it's Alex. And Alex lets him know, there's no way in hell I'm going to let you come on this show and do an interview. And Mitch says, that's funny because I haven't heard from Bradley yet. And Alex says, I'm just letting you know you're not going to use my show to take down everybody in your warpath. And Mitch looks a little bit puzzled and says, I'm just trying to take down Fred, but this idea that you're not complicit? And Alex immediately says, I'm not. And Mitch starts to crack up and say, you used to make fun of all these people. And you knew everything that was going on. And Alex continues to act like she has no idea what was transpiring. And Mitch once again reassures her that I'm not coming for you, but I'm taking this story to somebody, and how's it going to look if my former home wouldn't take the interview? It's going to look like you guys were staying silent this entire time. Now, this can be big ratings for the show, and it could be big for you, and the reality is you're going to be fine. You're a woman, and no one cares at this point if women were complicit. Your career is going to be fine. But I'm either going to you or I'm going to your competitor, and that's exactly what Bradley sees in this that Alex doesn't. Finally, Alex plays her final trump card. She tells him that she's going to have to address her divorce on the air, and everybody's going to think it has to do with the Mitch Kessler situation. But the reality is, working with Mitch Kessler, that's a big shadow. And I remember one time in Chile, you reamed me out for cutting in your segment, and I felt so bad. And I remember feeling so bad that we went out later that night, and I just remember drinks and more drinks and more drinks. And somehow that night, I ended up in your bed, and I just can't figure out how I got there. And Mitch looks completely shell-shocked and just says, you won it. And Alex, stone-faced, says, try me, and walks out of the apartment. So at this point, Mitch really needs Hannah to come through. And Hannah is meeting Claire for drinks, and Claire and Yanko are still going through the issue of how to go public, and they're about to embark on their, quote, first public date. And Claire's explaining to Hannah about their relationship, and Hannah says, I just think it's a bad idea, and if I'm going to be honest with you, I'm the one who reported you guys to HR. And of course, Claire gets pissed off and says you had no right, you have no idea about our relationship, and you didn't even come and ask me about it. And of course, Claire doesn't realize that Hannah's trying to protect her from her firsthand experience of getting used. And even though Claire doesn't think she's being used, and in all honesty, she's not being used, Hannah is trying to protect her. She tells her, you're young, you're talented, and you have your whole life, and you shouldn't be labeled because of who you're dating. But this doesn't calm Claire down. And while she's pissed off at Hannah, and she does go on the first date, the more and more she thinks about it, the more she realizes Hannah may have a point. And right before they actually go into the restaurant, she ends up calling off the relationship with Yanko. And Yanko is devastated, and in all honesty, so is Claire, but she's got a career to think about. And she doesn't want to be labeled as somebody who's getting ahead because she's dating somebody with quote-unquote power. But to get back to Hannah, she's agreed to meet with Mitch, but she wants to get her side of it out. She was young and naive and had a light shined on her from the star of the show. And she really thought it meant something when he told her she was talented. And when she went up to that hotel room that night, she had no idea that that was going to happen. And Mitch takes offense to this, saying, "You're a booker. Your entire job is to seduce people to come on to the show. You can't get mad because you were seduced. Come on, you're smart. What do you think happens when the star of the show is making $20 million, takes an interest in a junior booker? Come on, you knew what was going on. Either that or you're an idiot." And the most amazing part is Hannah doesn't want anything from this situation. She simply wants Mitch to realize her side of the story, but he's failing to do so. And at this point, she just wants the conversation to be over, so she lets him know she will corroborate the story, but she just wants her name out of it, and she wants him to leave her alone. So here's the part where I beg you guys to like this video, subscribe to the channel. There's a button in the top left corner there. And if you don't see the next video for this recap, not to worry, it'll be up soon. And thanks for watching.